Hey guys, thanks for showing up to the Shiny Things podcast. I'm Lisa Mitchell, communications expert and certified body language trainer. I'm here to help you figure yourself out a little bit and be able to decode other people better too. The goal of the Shiny Things podcast is to get you showing up as your most clued in and confident self in any situation. This season, we're focused on getting real about dating in an app-based digital world. We're going to dive into the good, the bad, and the really, really ugly parts of dating on demand. With so many apps bringing you so many options in such a short time, it's hard not to get distracted by shiny things. Let's get the conversation started. In this episode, we are going to focus on how to nail your digital dating profile with science-based tips that actually work. We're going to be taking a science-based look at what goes into making a favorable first impression with your digital dating profile and how you can ensure that you're being noticed for the right reasons. How you show up online or in a dating app is just as important as how you show up in someone's physical space, and even more challenging because people have less nonverbal information to help them figure you out. When you have access to one of the world's most distinguished experts on such a topic, why wouldn't you ask them on as your guest? Well, that's exactly what I've done today. Get ready to have your minds blown and your profiles upgraded. My guest today is someone that I'm lucky enough to call my mentor and my friend, Vanessa Van Edwards. Welcome to the show, Vanessa.
Hey, Lisa. It's so good to be here.
I am so excited to have you on. I've been so looking forward to this. I cannot wait.
I know, because we get to chat about all geeky things, and I cannot wait to dive into this and see the science as well as sort of the personal experience as well.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to get started. I'm going to tell my listeners a little bit about you here because not only are you one of my very favorite human beings, but you're also the lead investigator at Science of People, a human behavior research lab who I happen to be certified through. Vanessa is a Huffington Post columnist and a published author with a brand new book called CAPTIVATE that is available for pre-order now on Amazon. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit here, but make a note to follow up on that. Your innovative work has been featured on NPR, Business Week, and USA Today. And you give keynotes that are awesome. You appear in the media to talk about your research. You've written for CNN, Fast Company, Forbes. Vanessa, you do it all, sister. Yeah, so let's talk about the fact that Apple has chosen your book Captivate as one of the most anticipated books of 2017.
Oh my gosh, that was such a surprise. One of my readers forwarded me the email from Apple and said, "I'm so excited that your book, is featured by Apple." And I was like, "What?" And I emailed my publisher and I was like, "Is this a sponsorship? Like, did we pay for this?" And they're like, "No, it's organic. They just chose your book from all the books." And I was like shocked. So I'm thrilled. No one's anticipating it more than me. I'll tell you that.
Well, I know it has been a labor of love, and I know that you don't embark on anything halfway or without a substantial amount of research and blood, sweat, and tears. Literally, I know all four of those elements were present in the creation of Captivate. So, congratulations! I am so excited to get your book in my hands.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I was actually thinking about this the other day about blood, sweat, and tears. And I think the closest thing I had to blood was maybe a callus, but I don't think that really counts. So I think we could probably just say sweat and tears to be scientifically accurate if we wanted to be real accurate on it.
Right. But the launch isn't over yet. So there's still time.
That's true. That's true. Who knows? I might get a blister or something, a paper cut. Oh man, those are the worst.
You're right. We'll pray for a safe launch here, and we'll just take that off the list of things you've experienced here as part of it, because I know it's no small feat to get your huge brain of knowledge out into the universe to help everyone. And in this case, you get to help people like me, people that are in the wild, wild west of online and app-based dating.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait. Really, this is like the most self-serving episode I'll probably ever do. Because I took a break, but I relaunched, and I'm on a couple of dating apps right now. Specifically, I'm on Bumble and I'm on Hinge. Be glad you have a sweet, sweet man, Vanessa, that you
Oh, I
enjoy
know.
being in the company of. Because let me tell you, sister, it's like, wow. I'm just
And
going to say it's like wow out here.
it is like Wild West. It's funny because many years ago, before I got married, I did a really, I mean, like I went on every online dating website there was. Now, back then, there wasn't apps yet. There wasn't no cool Tinder or anything like that. But it was amazing to experience how much what you say, your picture, your screen name can affect the kind of people you attract. And I think that that's one of the things I'm most excited to talk to you about today.
Yeah, well, that's perfect because I'll tell you, with approximately 8 years of off and on from the original websites like Match.com and Plenty of Fish to now the apps that are popular, my profile and the versions of how I've shown up online
Mm-hmm.
have been vast and varied,
Mm-hmm.
as have the responses that those profiles have drawn.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I wondered what in the world in my profile would ever make somebody think that I would want this type of response.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to talking with you a little bit about what science tells us and what your research with the science of people has really helped you to uncover, not just about dating profiles, but about digital first impressions in whole. Can you share some of your most significant findings with our listeners?
Yeah. So there's what we have to understand is when someone's looking at a profile, it's actually very different than what happens in real life. We tend to think, oh, my digital first impression is really similar to my in-person first impression. But digitally, people are actually looking for slightly different things. And I think of a first impression as sort of three levels. And when someone's analyzing your profile, they either decide to level you up or they don't. And so in the very, very beginning, the very first thing they're sort of looking at is this person a friend or foe? What I mean by that is it's a purely survival mechanism. It happens in less than a second, the first 0.05 milliseconds of this snap judgment, looking at your picture. And usually that's all they have time to look at. Maybe your screen name. Is this person someone who would be comfortable or a threat to me or not? And I know that sounds crazy, but especially in the online world, we want to know right away, would I be comfortable with this person? Would I feel safe with this person? So that's the very first thing that we're kind of looking for. And we want to signal as well. So if you can, while you're listening, pull up your profile and your picture and kind of look at it while we're talking. I think that would be really helpful and interesting.
Oh, yes, I love that. So here's the test that I always have with my friends. It's like, do we think that we would end up in the trunk by the end of the date?
Right.
Like that's our friend or foe. Like, do we think we'll have a nice dinner and good conversation, or do we think that we'll be like hoping our friends do friend finder later to locate the body? So
Yes,
it's absolutely, that is such a valid split second analysis
right. So
of what you do first.
yeah, and for you want to send off trust signals right away. So there's a couple things that you can think about for trust signals. Well, the first one is actually purely logistical, and this is that we tend to like things that come first. So when you're picking screen names, this sounds really crazy, but actually people who use the letters at the very beginning of their screen name that are in the beginning part of the alphabet are going to come up higher in the search algorithms and the rankings. They're going to be not as far down the list. So when you're picking a screen name, it's actually really important to pick something that's, I like A, B, or C, right at the top of the alphabet. The further down the page we go, the more we feel like someone is hidden. I know that it's not that way. We obviously know logically that it's alphabetized, but you're better off right from the beginning picking something A, B, or C. That's the first thing. Yeah, very kind of silly tip. The second thing is trust indicators come from the more we can see of a person, the more we feel like we trust them, first of all, especially torso and hands. So if you have a really close-up photo of your face, even if you have the most lovely and beautiful face, which I'm sure that you do, that is actually more fear that produces more fear in someone because they cannot see what you're doing with the rest of your body. They can't see, are you holding something that could be threatening? Where is your body positioned? And even though we're online, this is an animal instinct. If we can't see someone's hands, we feel like, what's their intention? Are they going to be friendly to me? Are they going to reach out and shake my hand or not? So you're actually better off showing a little bit more of your torso and specifically the hands in your photo to send off those trust signals right away.
Right. So you want to try to counteract, even at the subconscious level, people's naturally heightened sense of skepticism.
Yeah, and intention, right? I mean, when we're talking about relationships, and this is of course in romance, but also for LinkedIn profile pictures or friendships, when we are looking at someone, we're trying to decide, what is their intention with me? Do they want to build a loving relationship or connection? Do they just want to have a purely physical connection? Do they want to scam me? Right? We're trying to decide intention. In human relationships, intention is often physically manifested with a handshake, giving someone something, taking something from someone. And what does that involve? The hands. So our hands are our intention makers. And so when we see them, it actually helps us feel a lot more relaxed and at ease because we feel like we know their intention. Now, of course, having someone's hands in the picture does not actually correlate to having someone be more trustworthy, but we're speaking to that animal part of our brain, that lizard part of our brain.
Right. So that's really interesting as far as how you can convey trust or gain trust, even with something as simple as where your hands are positioned.
Right. And that's a really easy one. So if you're trying to you bring up a folder of the pictures that you took on your recent sort of casual photo shoot, and which ones show the most intention or show the most of your torso or hands, that would be a really good one to put either as your first picture or in your top 3 photos.
Awesome. So in addition to keeping your hands kind of visible and calming some of those fears around skepticism or around doubt, what other elements has your research found make an effective profile? And by effective, I mean one that gets engagement or interest or whatever the outcome that you're seeking is. What's the best chance of getting that outcome?
Yeah. So I'm actually going to bring up one that I think is not talked about enough, and it's the idea of polarizers. So a lot of the time when people approach their profile, they're trying to attract as many fish in the sea as they can. So they pick the most common bait that they possibly can. So they tend to think, how can I appeal to the most people? The problem with this is it doesn't work as effectively. One is you're not going to attract as easily or as obviously the person who is your perfect match, but you are going to attract people who are okay matches. So what I encourage is to actually have polarizers in your profile. And a polarizer is something that immediately indicates a part of your personality that immediately is going to turn some people off and really turn some people on. And the research shows that this actually is beneficial. So for example, I believe it was OkCupid, where they saw that people in their messages or their profiles who used highly specific words, so things like Dave Matthews Band or tattoos or vegan, very, very specific polarizing words, actually made faster matches because it immediately got rid of the matches that would only be so-so, and who wants to spend their life or their time on a so-so date? And it immediately attracted people who were like, yes, like that is something that is also so me. So I would actually think about what are 3 to 5 words, traits, characteristics, hobbies, or skills that you have that either say a lot about you. So for example, if you're very highly open or adventurous, bungee jumping would be a really fast polarizer, right? You'd get people who are also accepting of or interested in adventurousness. And by the way, the person themselves doesn't have to be into bungee jumping. But what you're saying is, this is who I am. This is something that I really like, this extreme. I'm an adrenaline junkie. So you have to like that about me. So it's not that you're finding people who are similar to you, it's finding people who are accepting of you. So thinking of like bungee jumping if you're adventurous, or if you have a deal breaker, I highly recommend you put this on your profile. And people argue with me about this all the time, but you don't want to waste a date, a call, even a second of messaging time if someone has your deal breaker. Now, the way that you phrase it is really
Interesting.
important,
Yeah,
right?
let's talk
Yeah.
about this because I haven't, in all of my vast and varied, profiles across the spectrum, I have not ever really claimed. I haven't claimed a deal breaker.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't recommend saying my deal breaker is, or it is a deal breaker if you. The reason for this, by the way, is because stating that you have a deal breaker like that also indicates a different kind of personality trait, right? That's a very rigid personality trait. Now, if you are rigid, now I don't think you probably are, but if you are rigid, sure, you can say that. But I think that most people are not. Although most people have deal breakers. So it's a myth that when someone states they have a deal breaker, we mistakenly assume they are rigid, but actually that is not the case. In fact, it's opposite, which is someone who states they have a deal breaker just means they are strong in their values. And that is usually something that people want. So I wouldn't come out and say, my deal breaker is someone who has never left the US. I want a traveler, right? Like I wouldn't come out and say it that way. But I would be very clear that is a value that you hold very high. So I try to pick less obvious examples. The most obvious deal breaking examples are, smoking, meat eater. Sometime if you have someone who loves meat or hates meat. But I'd rather actually, I think there are more subtle deal breakers that we don't think about as much, like never traveled outside the U.S. or is culinarily adventurous or is active, right? The level of activity or exercise is often a deal breaker that we don't think of. What you want to do is you want to mention that as a very high value in your life with value words. So this is really important to me. Or my morning meditation routine is a huge pillar in my life. So important, essential, pillar, one of my values, something I treasure, something that defines me, right? Those kinds of big phrases are a nice way of saying, this is kind of a deal breaker for me. You have to love this about me, or I want someone to share this with me to really have a successful relationship. I think the more specific and even the more extreme, I will even say that, your profile is, the higher likelihood it is that you are going to find your perfect person, not just an okay person, and also not have so many wasted dates and phone calls and messages.
Oh, that right there is worth its weight in gold. The not wasting. And I try to like not look at any interaction as a waste.
Yes.
But yes, time is the one luxury that you cannot create more of. And like, for instance, I'll share a quick story. So last night I went out on a date with a guy that I had connected with on Bumble. And for me, like one of my pillars is I need education and I need adventure. So I need somebody that I can have smart conversation with because I'm a geek like that. You know that.
Yeah.
I need somebody that can get my brain and fall down the rabbit hole with me on about any topic. And then I need somebody who's going to pack a suitcase and go somewhere and have some adventure. So it looked like, from all intents and purposes, that we were connected on that. So we met, and it was like one of those things where it's really interesting to convey the fact that you also need some personality with that adventure and that intelligence.
Yeah.
Any tips you have around, like, because I'm a little goofy, I'm a little sarcastic, I'm a little I'm actually an introvert, but I do like to be out and about or perform at times. So how is there a way between how you show up from a first impression non-verbally and how you craft your message that you can kind of be more specific on that element?
Before I answer that, you actually brought up something that I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to highlight it. So you mentioned a very, very good distinction, which is that no date is a waste of time. And you are 100% right about that. In fact, I would say that one of the best things you can do after a mediocre or bad, but really mediocre is usually the enemy of most good dates, where it's not usually terrible. It's usually just like meh, or you're kind of ambivalent. You're like, maybe I could go on a second date.
That was kind of last night. Yeah, I left
Yeah.
and I was like,
Okay.
well, it wasn't awful. It wasn't amazing. And we could probably be cool again. But
Yeah. So ambivalence is actually much harder than bad, which we can talk about also. But what I highly recommend is getting in the habit of updating your profile after every single mediocre date. And what I mean by that is you want to figure out, what is it about this person that attracted them to me? How did I call this person to me with my messages or my profile or my pictures? And that's especially important with bad ones. And you can even say and ask the person, I did this when I was doing online dating, what was the hook in my profile? Like, did you read something or see something that made you think we would be a really good match? And I asked that on bad dates, good dates, and mediocre dates. And it was incredible, the answers that they shared with me. They were not the things that I thought were I had tried to put there as definitions of why we should date. They were like small things, like use of an emoticon in a funny way, or like something I had put in a parentheses. And so I seriously, like, those are the things that often get us, because why? They're the things that we haven't heard a million times before. So I would get in the habit of, after a date, first of all, asking that question, what about my profile sort of made you think that we would be a good match? Right? Like, that's a real easy question to ask. And it also stimulates fascinating conversation. By the way, be ready to answer that about them if you ask it. And then going back in and trying to say, how could I have prevented this date in the future? That's a weird way of thinking about it. But like, how could I have made it so that I would have attracted someone who was more perfect for me than this mediocre or ambivalent date was? So I know that we don't often change our profiles. In fact, I ask people, when's the last time you changed your profile? And they're like, oh, years, or I haven't changed it since I put it up. Or the most common answer I get is, my friend wrote it for me.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because like I said, I've been kind of on and off and in different ones and over the course of years. And I'll tell you, there are some people, like, I call it profile fatigue. Like, I'll see the same people, the same profile pictures from like 4 years ago. Yeah, and it's like, I won't even, it's like, if you don't care enough to act like you're engaged, whatever. I mean, I guess you're just waiting for new people who haven't seen you on there 100 times to be engaged with you. But for me, it's like, that says a lot if somebody has or if they're up and down with their profile, but it's always exactly the same.
So that's a great point, right? Like, it not only does refreshing your profile help you refish the sea. Okay, so maybe there's someone who actually is a very good match for you. Because you haven't changed your profile, they haven't found the connection yet, right? So adding a polarizer or being more specific is going to all of a sudden make you realize, maybe there's something here. And second, by the way, that also helps your search engine rankings, right? So every dating website has a kind of search engine or algorithm for themselves. They also have, matching algorithms behind the scenes to try to recommend you to people that you would like. If your profile is really stale, you're also not being shown the best people for you. So the more you can update it, the more fresh your results will be, the more you will appear in other people's results, the more you will show up to new people on the website, and the better your recommendations will be. So that's one of the big ones, is there is no such thing as a perfect profile, right? I joke about having the perfect profile picture, but really the perfect profile is the one that is constantly updated, because we also change quickly as well.
Right. Awesome. I love the idea that it's a very dynamic environment, because it really is. I mean, people's interest in seasonal changes. I mean, if you're still talking about football season at the beginning of summer, I know you just don't care. Yeah. Like, I love football season, don't get me wrong, but like, be engaged now. Like, don't just throw it out there and see what sticks. Now, I'm interested to know, you said that there's no perfect profile. Are there any things you absolutely should not do? Any things to be avoided at all cost?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So, the first thing, the most obvious common thing I see all the time is the smirk. And I'm sure that you've talked about this before. So contempt is one of the 7 universal micro expressions and is simply a one-sided mouth raise. So if you're listening and you just want to try this, you can just lift up one corner of your mouth, kind of in that little smirk.
But
Most people
Vanessa,
think,
listeners will say, isn't that just a half smile? Doesn't that just make me look sly or intriguing?
that's the dangerous part about contempt is we think it's a half smile. In fact, we have a body language quiz on our website. You're welcome to take it. It's free and it kind of tests you on your body language. In that quiz, we show a picture of contempt, someone making contempt microexpression, and we ask people, what does this face mean? And most people, the majority of people, pick boredom. So
Really?
yes. So I think most people actually see it as sort of dismissive or neutral at best. The problem is it's actually a very pessimistic, full of scorn, disdain expression. It has a hint or an indication of better than this, better than this, better than you, better than other people. And so when you show that seemingly casual expression, especially in an online dating profile picture, you're indicating to people, I feel better than you. I feel better than this website. I feel better than dating. It's a really egotistic way to go into dating. And I think it's the biggest mistake we make accidentally.
Awesome. Well, okay. So just one more time, people, a half smile is not perceived as being half happy. It's actually perceived as being contemptuous. So if you don't learn anything else from listening today, know that a smirk is not a good look for you on your dating profile.
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, Vanessa, I wish I could keep you on all day. I know you have a ton of stuff going on here. I did want to just circle back around to Captivate and to your book launch that's happening, and the pre-order is up on Amazon right now. You gave so many great tips today. What else can we learn from picking up a copy of Captivate?
Oh gosh, I'm so grateful that you're in support of it. It's a labor of love, and it's actually my personal playbook. So I never found that people skills came naturally to me, and so this is sort of how would I hack human behavior? And the book is actually split up into 14 different human behavior hacks, all based in science. And so I wanted to also specifically point out sort of a dating roadmap. So for those of you who are really like your big goal this year or this month is to optimize your dating life, there's a couple of specific hacks that I would recommend you start with. So the first one is actually chapter 2, which is about first impressions, where I go a little bit even more deeper into friend versus foe, likability, and those first few seconds, both online and offline. So that's hack number 2. I would also highly recommend hack number 5, which is about intrigue. And this is about being socially attractive. And there's some very interesting science about what attraction is and how that works and how you can show that both in your profile and your interactions. And the last 2 would be hack number 7, which is about solving people or speed reading people, which is incredibly important in dating because
oh my gosh, that's the golden goose right there. If you can figure out how to read people in dating, you just saved yourself an infinite amount of time.
And just to have a better honing your intuition. You already have an intuition. You already can kind of tell within the first few minutes of meeting someone if they'd be a good match. But I want to make that even faster and make it easier to say, not be ambivalent and say, nope, this person is not for me, or wow, this person has a lot of potential. So that one, and the very last one would be how to turn people on. So hack number 14 is how do we engage people in a way that makes us ridiculously memorable, which is a funny way of thinking about it. So those are kind of the hacks that if you want to specifically go after, I think that would be your best guide.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to get my copies. I'm giving them out to almost everyone I meet when I get my stash, because I don't know anybody who can't benefit from knowing what you're sharing here. And I think it's awesome that you're kind of giving us the behind the curtain look at how to really optimize our social lives and our behavior and help stop wasting our own darn time.
Yes. And my final word for anyone listening is just that everything can be optimized. Like if something doesn't work the first time, you go on a bad date, it doesn't come naturally. I believe that everything can be learned. I think charisma can be learned. And so don't worry if you've had some bad experiences. I can try to help you make it so that you get better and better, because I think that we all have those in the past.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're going to all run to Amazon and reserve our copies of Captivate. If people want to learn more about your research or dating hacks or first impressions, what's the best way for them to really get connected with you, Vanessa?
Yeah, I have a free guide called The Ultimate Guide to Online Dating. It's like a free ebook where we have a bunch of science. So if you go to scienceofpeople.com/dating, I believe, or if you just go to the homepage of the website and you see a little button that says romance tips, you can click it and get it. It's a little, I believe it's a 87-page ebook. Lots of pictures, don't worry. And so that's like a really easy way to kind of hack the science right away.
Awesome. Cool. Well, and scienceofpeople.com in general has all sorts of fun, amazing, great, well-researched material. So I'm going to encourage everyone listening to go to scienceofpeople.com and play around there, have some fun. Vanessa, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are such a blessing to me on a professional front and on the personal front. I value your friendship, and I love just your mission in life to help people be more clued in and more connected, and really just enjoy the experience of being here and interacting with each other. And I am a testament to the life-changing power of the science that you teach and that you share. And I just want to sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart for your graciousness and your willingness to serve and to teach and to learn. And you really, in all sincerity, and you've changed my life, and I'm so grateful.
Gosh. You're gonna make me cry. I feel lucky to have you in my life as well. So it is my honor and my pleasure to serve. I hope I can continue to do so for you.
Oh, you're awesome. Well, hey, we are going to wrap up the Love Fest here. Vanessa, again, thank you for being on. Our listeners, I'm sure, are already rewriting their dating profiles and changing their pictures. So thank you for helping us optimize our dating life. Guys, there you have it. Thanks for writing along for another episode of Shiny Things. And you can't always control how someone else is going to show up, but you are totally in control of how you show up in every situation in your life. And dating is no exception. To get the outcome you want, you need to show up as a person that you want to be. Let me know how you put today's superpower moment to good use when you're out in the wild this week. Tell me how it's working for you. I'd love to hear your stories. I'd love to see your new profiles. I'd love to know how you've optimized your dating life. Email me at lisa@powerbodylanguage.com and tell me all about it. Who knows? You might even get to end up on an episode with me. Until our next podcast date, keep showing up as the person you want to be.